It's the largest school that the School Construction Authority has ever constructed.
This school is designed with the community in mind.
You're putting a very large high school that will serve the community. So this high school will sort of be a beacon of redevelopment for this area.
Everybody from the real estate team to the architects and engineers, to the finance staff, to our contract admin staff, to the construction management staff has put in a lot of time and energy into this wonderful project.
It's a beautiful building, and I think the neighbors will enjoy seeing that, as opposed to, it was basically a big box store and a large parking lot. I think this is a major improvement to the neighborhood.
Whereas we're looking at half-acre sites typically, this one came in at around 3 acres. So the scale alone made this tricky when it comes to redevelopment.
The design team did a great job. A very nice facade, but not imposing. So you feel that you are walking into a grand institution, right? Because of the wide opening in the front, right? You feel like you are going into something big, which is actually the case in this case. It's one of the biggest high school we built so far.
The original idea for the project was it to be mixed use, retail and school, and it was a much smaller school to begin with. So the developer wanted to do ground floor retail, a little separate retail on the side, and the school would be above. So mixed use projects are a little bit more complicated to design and function. So I think that's why it was a smaller school at that time. There was a decision midway with the sellers. We convinced them to just sell it to us outright, which we were very excited about. Since it is such a large site, we saw the opportunity as well to grow it. And I think it grew multiple times during the process. I think it went to like 12 or 1,400, then like 2,200, and then finally to the 3,000.
Imagine everything sort of triple. It's triple hard because it's 3 times as big, but it's 3 times as rewarding, right? If we did things that were innovative, but that made sense. For example, centering the kitchen as the core with back-to-back kitchen server lines so that we service 2 cafeterias at the same time. And that's a very important part in being able to run the schools properly because we gotta feed these big kids.
There is such a big need for high school seats in Queens, and this was a large site that could accommodate it, and that's why we maximized the space. But then just generally, overall, we try to maximize space because it's just efficient operationally. You know, a smaller 400, 500 seat school or 600 seat school needs a principal, vice principal, nurse, security. And if you have it, you know, more students, this is more effective, cost effective to have more students for the same basic infrastructure.
Like all projects that we start, we look at adjacencies, site conditions, where to have main entrances, side entrances, looking at the programs, and also having the opportunity to include special programs like large auditorium accommodating over 700 seats. We rarely get that kind of opportunity, so we designed the auditorium with a big bang. And we also got to design the weightlifting rooms.
The weight training area, the 2 dance studios. We have an ample library upstairs, and science labs.
So that's really exciting to have that opportunity to put all the special programs in one school location.
At the end of the day, we want to provide, you know, all schools with every amenity possible. We don't necessarily have the funding to do that or the space to do that, but when they can get the full range of amenities in one space, air conditioning, accessibility, an auditorium, all those things, you know, that just makes me happy.
Anything in New York has some environmental challenges generally. Most could be handled with good engineering solutions, which we do all the time. We did our testing, and then sometimes surprises show up, and that did happen on this site.
We have, over 50 environmental professionals here, and there's a lot of various specialties that include, industrial hygiene, your building hazard components, as well as environmental engineering, geology, hazardous materials, and all of this knowledge together collectively is used to make this site suitable for school use and the safety of the children and the teachers that use these buildings, as well as the protection of the environment.
It's important to engage all the stakeholders so that we fully understand what may be the concerns that might be brought up from the community. We also look at the ease of maintenance, also think about the security. Imagine managing and operating a school of the size of over 3,000 students, where you need to make sure that they are tended to. We provide adequate number of classrooms, over 98 general classrooms with the 15 special classrooms.
We look at the history of the site. So there's various databases that we review, there's historic photos, there's fire safety maps, and you put that all together and you have a picture of what that site was before we walked onto it. And the site certainly had some history. Prior to 1950, it really was just an open lot. So this site in the 1950s and a lot of the other surrounding sites are redeveloped with auto usage, service stations, repair shops, and other supporting businesses. That's all sort of a red flag, and all of that could be considered a recognized environmental condition.
3,000 plus, that's a lot of seats to deal with on the road traffic. Northern Boulevard is already a very busy road. So we work closely with the Department of Transportation at the city and the MTA to work out so that it could efficiently as possible accommodate the school, and it does. We actually were able to mitigate any impacts that were coming from traffic. We're lucky because there's a subway stop right there with a couple of lines and really good bus service on Northern Boulevard. So, high school students generally come to the school by themselves. So it's a great location.
We conducted GPR, which is ground penetrating radar. We identified, several tanks, 14 specifically, that served the gasoline station. Once we hit the tanks, the general contractor had to chip them out of the concrete. They have to be cleaned, and then they could be recycled like any other metal is recycled. So fortunately, these tanks were in good condition. We didn't have any releases, and we didn't have to deal with any petroleum spills here.
During COVID, everything shut down, so there was an opportunity, since it was a large site, to be turned into one of the largest COVID testing centers in the city. And since this building was designed by our in-house architects and engineers, we were able to keep designing this project all through COVID. So when things ended and opened up again, we were ready to go.
A geoprobe takes soil borings, and it basically takes a 2-inch core down to whatever depth that we determine, and we'll basically screen that core for visual evidence of contamination. We have photoionization detector, which is basically a device that screens for any sort of volatile chemicals. And we also take groundwater samples just to determine if there's any contamination in the groundwater that would have to be addressed. With all that information, that basically brings us to a conclusion as to whether or not we can make the site suitable for a school, or whether we should pass on it. In this case, this one was pretty straightforward.
The building design, it's important, again, to have that transparency to the outside community. So we took the biggest program of the spaces for this building, which is the gymnasium and the auditorium. So we use that as sort of the arm reaching out to the community. If you look at the site plan, it's sort of arm embracing and open wide to the community, saying, here is our first intervention as an institution, as a dedication to the community.
The school will basically become a center of the neighborhood community because it just have so much available space that they could use. We actually purposely locate all the public assembly space on the ground floor for easy access to the community and dedicated entrance so they could use after hours for community use. So, we have a full-size gym, we have a full-size auditorium, we have a, 2 cafeteria. I could fully imagine the neighborhood is going to utilize this space either for community function or maybe even on weekend to host all sort of events or function.
This will be a school for, 100 plus years, and this will be where the community sends their children to move on and take on the world.
When we design, we also keep in mind the health of the occupants in the space. And we were lucky to be able to integrate a curtain wall system along the north side. Situating the main entrance or facing the north is helpful in that we didn't have to worry too much about the glare from the southern exposure. And it also allowed for creating a grand entrance architecturally from the northern boulevard. Having daylight is a conscientious decision that we make throughout each of the floors, using double-loaded corridors, utilizing natural light coming in from the perimeter windows. We also make a conscientious decision to carve out an open plaza to make the floor plan C-shaped so that it, instead of a donut where you may not be able to get exterior perimeter lighting, it allowed us a lot more opportunity to introduce more windows in the library and other functional spaces.
Well, this system that we designed, it's a sub-slab depressurization system. It's essentially an insurance policy to make sure that no harmful soil vapors get into the building. It's essentially a network of perforated pipes, gravel, so the air could be captured and rerouted to the roof so it doesn't make its way into the building. In addition, there's also a gas vapor barrier, which is another level of insurance, which prevents any vapor from penetrating that barrier as well.
We've seen the building in on drawings first, right? And then we come to the site and it's an empty lot, there's nothing there. And then a few months later, you see the slabs going in and you see the structure, the metal structure going in. And then the envelope goes in and then you start seeing, each classroom, being generated. It's always an amazing experience to see each phase of the project. To me, when the walls are in and they start the painting and the materials start actually moving in, I think that's my favorite part of the project.
I think what's important that people may not realize is how many projects we undertake in any given period. I mean, we have over 1,000 projects happening currently in construction. The amount of work that we can accomplish in such a short amount of time is absolutely amazing.
As much as people thought that you could get gas and electric anywhere, whenever we build a building, it's actually not that easy. Most of the school, we just make the request and kind of say, come to meet us on the sidewalk, and then we got our power. This one with the load that we use, Con Edison actually put a transformer vault, what we call blockhouse, inside our building, which adds a lot of complexity in the design. Just this item alone, it took us a good chunk of our design time and coordination time.
We had to break down the building a little bit to give it a more human scale.
Yeah.
So we had to create lines and add bristle-A, and the entrance had to be the storefront, which is a transparency.
Yeah. Initial move had very minimalist approach, and considering the existing fabric of the Northern Boulevard and the community, I think we made the right decision in bringing additional layer of different materials. It helped to bring down the scale of the building and the massing, and also added interest and color to the building.
I think that all the parents should know that their children are getting the state-of-the-art facility in one of the biggest buildings, and they're going to be very happy because they cannot ask for anything more. Everything is top-notch in here.
The entrance lobby, I think it's the main venue, it's the first view, and it was very important to bring the natural elements into this urban environment. So you will see a touch of natural wood finish as sort of homage to nature in some of our critical places as an accent. And the columns are painted green so that they resonate trees, and the shape of the ceiling cove is a natural organic shape to mimic nature.
I love going to opening day. It's the best day. Everyone is so excited about their new school. The custodians, the faculty, the students. I love doing that because sometimes you can get frustrated at work, and then going to those days where you get to see people see their new home, basically, is like really the best day for the team at the SEA.
For every school that I look at or be there on the first day, sometimes I get emotional because, this school is just so big and we have a lot of moments that we always remember. And, but I think should be very joyful at the same time, right? But I will say that I would need to take a moment of quietness after all the students and staff and teacher coming in and, just reflect and maybe go outside, sit on the beautiful bench, just look at Northern Boulevard and enjoy the quiet moment.
What makes us tick is the good work that we do, the work that we do for the children, for the communities of New York City.